This is Maya Heisenmuddle, and today we're going to be going over some Google Forms and different things that you can do with them, as well as the different kinds of questions that are in them. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go up to the waffle, and yes, that is still what I call it. And I scroll down into the More section because for some reason Google Forms doesn't show up on the top. So just click Forms and it's going to take me to a list of all my Google Forms. And so the first thing you can do from here is if you don't have any Google Forms, you can obviously go to the three dots, or you can go up here and make a new Google form and create a new form, which is where? Okay, so now I'm in my Google Drive and I've gone into a folder that I want. I'm going to go New to More, and then I'm going to create a brand new Google form. And Google Forms look intimidating at first, but the idea is that you're setting up a backbone for either a quiz, a note-taking device, digital worksheet, an escape room, something for your kids. And you can do all of those things with a Google form. You can also do a basic survey with a Google form. So the first thing I always do is I give it a name. This is practice form 1. So you can also put a description here so that when people come to your Google form, they get a description of what it's supposed to be. Okay, then it gives you a basic question, and it almost always starts with a multiple choice question, which isn't bad. It's just a lot of times that's not what we want. So before we go any further, if I click up here where it said untitled form, it now says practice form 1. So now it knows what it's called and it's going to save it automatically. I'm going to go up here to the cog and mess with some of the settings. So you can either collect email addresses or not. So collecting email addresses is what I do if I'm going to use it as a quiz or an assignment for students. I'll be honest, actually, I think I use it every time. Whether it's a quiz, an assignment, notes, whatever it is, I try to collect their email addresses because that allows me to import their scores directly into Google Classroom. So I can response receipts basically means should it send them an email when they finish and turn in their response and let them, oh, you answered this for these questions. I tend to leave that off because most of my kids don't check their email anyway. So if they want it, great. If they don't, because they will get a chance to ask for it when they turn in their form. But I'm not going to make it mandatory that they get that email. A limit to 1 response. If you're doing a quiz or an assignment and you only want them to turn it in once, you don't want 5 submissions from the same kid, you want to turn that on. Now, if it's a quiz, I usually don't let them edit after they submit, and I don't let them see a summary chart of text responses. However, if it is a homework assignment where I'm giving them a video or something and I'm asking them to answer questions about the video, I will sometimes let them go back and edit after they submit because sometimes they aren't finished, but they need to submit it and come back to it later. So I'm going to turn that on for this one. Summary charts and text responses, it just lets them see like what everybody else, 35% of your class also said A was the correct answer. So that sort of thing. I usually don't mess too much with that. Presentations, showing a progress bar. My kids find this confusing because they think 100% means that they got 100% in the question, or 50% means they got half the question right, when in reality it just means they're halfway through with the quiz. I tend to leave them off. Shuffling the question order, if it's a quiz, this makes sense. But if it's any of the other types of forms, sometimes you don't want the questions shuffled. You want them to show up in order. You can do a custom confirmation message. There. So there's my custom confirmation message. And then I can go to the quiz part. Do I want to collect a score, basically, is what it's asking. Whether you call that a quiz or an assignment or whatever, doesn't matter. If it's going to be scored, you want to make it a quiz. Now, if you are using Chromebooks in your classroom, you can turn on locked mode, which means they will not be able to open any other tabs while the quiz is open. However, if you are a science teacher and you're using MacBooks, this doesn't work. And it will freak out and not let you import the scores either because they didn't do them on a Chromebook. So it becomes a problem if you're using anything that isn't a Chromebook. But if you're using a Chromebook, you can turn on locked mode. Immediately after each submission, it's going to release the grade, or later after manual review. If you do later after manual review, it will not automatically import into your Google Classroom. So I always say immediately, even if it means I'm going back and changing for an answer here or there and giving them extra points or whatever. Do you want them to see missed questions, correct answers, and point values? I usually turn the correct answer off so they can see that they missed the question and they can see that it was worth 10 points, but they can't necessarily see what the correct answer was. And then they can go back and try it again, kind of thing. When you're done with your settings, you hit save. And so now notice it says right here that it's automatically collecting their addresses and it's set to just Mead users because that's one of the selections I made. So the first question, it gave us a multiple choice because multiple choice is the most common. I will often have kids actually type their names as the first question. And the reason I do that is because when I go to look up their assignments, it does it by their Mead ID number, which is a combination of their first and last name and some numbers, which can become really confusing when I have multiple kids whose last names are the same or whose first names are similar, and I have to try and switch my brain over, and I don't know, it just gets to be a bit much for me. So I usually just have them type their first and last name as a question. I make it worth 0 points. I make it required, and then that way I have their actual names so I can sort my responses and go, oh, well, I just want to see, Billy's response, so I can click on that question later and find his actual typed name. So let's add another question here. And this one is a paragraph answer. The difference between short answer and paragraph is just longer. It does have a word count value on it. So I don't know, if you want essay questions and you want to read them online, you can definitely use the paragraph. And yes, you can go in and grade them after they've turned them in. Multiple choice is pretty obvious. Multiple choice questions are multiple choice questions. They'll be the same here as they've been in Schoology. So there we go. So what was the name of Charles Darwin's ship they sailed to the Galapagos Islands on? The correct answer would be the HMS Beagle. And notice it gave me a clue there. There we go. So now I have options. If I want to rearrange them, notice over here I get that little weird mark. That means I can just drag them around when I grab that and put them in a different order. I can come down here to the answer key. I can make it worth 5 points, and then I tell it what the correct answer is. Done. I can make the question required or not. I usually, if it's a quiz, I make everything required. If it's a homework assignment, I don't, because then they have to answer something in order to submit it, even if they're not done with it. So it's up to you what you're going to do, whether you're going to make it required or not. If it's a quiz that I want them to do all at once, I make them required. If I want them to be able to come back after they've put in their initial answer, then I don't make it required. So we're going to now try another one. So that was multiple choice. Check boxes are similar, actually. Here, we'll try this. So I'm just going to duplicate this exact same question, but now make it check boxes. Check boxes allows them to select more than one correct answer. So now they can go in here and they can select 3 of the 4 answers is what they will have to select to get those 5 points. If they only select 2 of the 3, then they don't get any points. So this becomes a problem when I do quizzes. If I want them to select all, I have to write in here, select all that are correct. And then I will get kids who come back and they're like, wait, but I selected 2 out of the 3, I should get 2/3 of the points. And so you have to decide how you want to deal with that with the check boxes, or just not use that question type. The other ones, drop downs, are interesting. So I'm going to duplicate this question, turn it into a drop down. So what happens is what this looks like is they get the question and then they can choose from the drop down menu which answer. So if you're going to have them select something like a class, which class are you in, then that's easily done as a drop down. Or, which lab group were you in, and then they select the number in a drop down. And that gives you it's great for identifying questions. It's not so great for quiz style questions, but still. Then you can also do what's called a file upload. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here to this question I haven't made yet. And we're going to select file upload. Now I don't do these all that often, but I do them once in a while. Let respondents upload drive files. So basically what it is they have to upload a file to turn this in, which can be super useful for distance learning because you want like a screenshot of something, which is almost always what I want. So if I had kids make a logo, for example, as part of my computer science class, they had to design a logo, allow only specific file types. I like to do this so that I don't get weird stuff. So if I can say it has to be an image file, that's going to be a PNG, a JPEG, a GIF, but it has to be an image file. Maximum number of files, 1. Well, if they made 5 files, so for example, if I want them to upload 5 versions of this logo, then I could change that from 1 to 5. Or I can leave it at 1 and say, I just want 1 logo from you. Maximum file size, you can change that. I recommend that if you're doing pictures that you leave it at 10 megabytes because sometimes if they do a JPEG or a GIF, their file sizes will be slightly larger. You can require things that are smaller, like the 1 megabyte for some things. If you're going to have kids upload a video of them discussing or answering a question, then you definitely want to make this a bigger number. So again, you can also come up here, presentation, drawing, audio file, video file. So you can have the kids record a video and upload it here. This form can accept up to 1 gigabyte of files. And that means that this form, if I give this form to 90 kids total have to use no more than 1 gigabyte because that's how much I have allowed for this section, for this one question. And so then I can say, yeah, that's required or not. I can make it worth points, and I can go in and add points to it. Notice I have a running tally up here of how many points I'm at right now. I'm at 20 points because I made them all worth 5 up to this point. So I'll show you what this looks like from a kid view here in a minute, but this can be really powerful if you want kids to, hey, prove to me you signed up for Khan Academy and take a screenshot of your home screen with your name on it or whatever, and then have them upload screenshots of things. Great for distance learning. I don't tend to use it in my classroom all that much, but I might this year now that I've figured out how to use it because I hadn't used it up until this year. So after file upload, you have linear scale. Linear scale questions are great for feeling questions. So you can then label the bottom of it, and you can change that number from 1 or 0, and you can say not at all, and 5 can be very. So I'm asking them how useful they found something, and that's all I have to do. I can put in an answer key. Essentially what it's going to do is give them points for giving me an answer. Because notice answer feedback is all I get. There's no correct answer for that. But I can definitely give them points for answering it, which means now I'm up to 25, which I can see up there. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. And this time I'm going to go with a multiple choice grid. So a multiple choice grid looks a little bit different. So I can, for my rows, mark things like, instead of asking about the Khan Academy videos, I could say, how useful did you find each of the videos? How useful did you find each kind of video? And then I can go over here and I can say, so now kids can add their information. The only problem here is that you can't add an other for them to type in. You can add other in some of the other options, but you can't in the grid. So now I've given them columns to do. I can require a response for each row if I want, and I can always give them points. So it automatically set it up to give them 5 points per spot, which brings me up to a total of 45 because this one question is now worth 20. So I can go in and I can say that the correct answer would be very useful for all of them. And so this is a way you can do matching as well. So for example, I can turn this into a matching question. So match each term with its definition, and then I could have There we go. So I can now do a matching question and have the kids match up terms with definitions. And so then in your answer key, you can say term 1 goes with definition 1, term 2 goes with definition 2, term 3 goes with definition 3, and term 4 goes with definition 4. And then hit done. And when I click, notice it's going to look something like this when the kids see it. So that was the multiple choice grid. Notice I can move the order of the questions, usually. There we go. So that I can put them in any order I want. So we had a multiple choice grid. Checkbox grid is similar, except that now they can check more than one column for each thing. So if you say something like, which of these Punnett square are which offspring are going to happen based on this Punnett square? Then you could say, oh, well, there are 3 options. They could check all 3 kind of thing, as well as what the genotypes and phenotypes, and you could get complicated with a checkbox grid. You could also have a date question where they would have to go in and answer by selecting a calendar and then picking a date and time. Usually I wouldn't make date time questions worth any points, but you can if you want to. And they have to go in, they'll get a little calendar and they scroll through and find the correct date and so on. Then we also have the very last one, which is a time. And so they have to select the correct time. Now, mind you, this will all be time stamped anyway, so this question is kind of irrelevant. But you can use the time piece for any of the, for as an actual question or for anything else that you want. But keep in mind that all of the answers will automatically be time stamped and date stamped anyway when students turn them into you. So if you want to see what it looks like from a student view, you click the I, which is preview, and it brings you over. And so there's how they're going to see the questions. And they can go in and you can actually pretend to be a student and type some stuff in. That's what a drop down looks like. Multiple choice with check boxes. I can now check more than one. I can upload a file. I click the upload. I can go over here to select, grab this random screenshot that's sitting on my desktop, upload, and then notice it shows what I uploaded. I can select a number here. I can say very useful for all of these. Matching a term with its definition, you can come through and mark whatever you want. Yes, I know I'm marking them incorrect. And then again, date and time, I can click here and say, there we go. And then time, I can switch it from AM to PM. I can type 9 AM and then submit. And so now they should show, there's the assignment thing that I put as my, this is the custom submission message that I sent out. They can view their score and edit their response. So if they view their score, it shows them which ones they missed. And it says, oh, you didn't get any points for this because the teacher has to come in and give those points. And I obviously didn't get any points for that one. I got all of those. I missed a bunch of these. And again, there were no points given for the date or the time because the teacher will have to go in and say, yes, that was the correct date or the correct time. So then they can reload it and go edit their response, and they can go in and change their response as well. So they can say, oh, I see what I did wrong. And then go through, there's 3 and there's 4. And do that and then submit it again. And now they can go view that score again. And you can see that now it marks those as correct. So this is how you would do it if you were doing an assignment. Now you can put a lot of things in a Google form, which is one of the things I like about them, because I will often, instead of it being instead of them just answering random questions, maybe I want to attach a video. So I can come down here and add video. Paste my video link right there, search for it, select it, and now it has inserted this video, and I can put the video at the top so they type their name, then they have to watch the video and maybe now answer questions about the video. I can do the same thing with an image. I can come over and insert an image here. I can divide this into sections. I can insert text, or I can import questions from another form that I have, so that if I want to make a study guide, normally I just copy the test and then change the questions around for a study guide. But I could import questions if I had them from, I want to ask like 3 questions from the first quiz we did. I can go find that first quiz and import those questions. So that's kind of what all of the question types will do. Hopefully this helps.